Almost since the beginning of the series with Assassin's Creed 2, revenge has been a pretty common theme throughout the games. It's really a common theme to see in games and media in general. As they say, art imitates life, and revenge takes form in our lives in many different ways. The desire to make someone feel the same pain they caused you. Be it physical, mental, there are many different variations of revenge. For example, one of my friends betrayed me in a game of Risk, a board game, and so the next round I dedicated my efforts to ensuring their defeat, purely out of spite. I didn't even care if I won, so long as I got my revenge. Revenge is a part of human instinct, and so it makes sense why revenge would be such a common theme in Assassin's Creed, and a main motivating driving force for a lot of these protagonists. I think if you really want to hyperanalyze it, there are elements of revenge in every Assassin's Creed story, even if it's not the main theme. Valhalla isn't really a revenge-driven story, but the entire opening is dedicated to Eivor avenging their parents. There's certainly a big element of revenge in Odyssey, with Alexios and Cassandra's anger towards their father and Sparta for throwing them off of a cliff. When Jacob is betrayed by Pearl Attaway, or discovers the true nature of Maxwell Roth in Syndicate, while sure, he wants to kill them because they're the enemy and a threat to the people of London, you can be sure there's a part of Jacob that really wants vengeance as well. The narratives of all these games I just gave examples from don't have revenge as the primary theme and driving force of the story, but it's still involved in some pretty important ways. Assassin's Creed 2 and Origins are through and through revenge stories. That's the primary motivation of the protagonists and what drives the plot forward. While in games like Brotherhood, AC3, and Unity, while revenge isn't necessarily the sole driving force, it is still a massive part of the story. While Ezio in Brotherhood is no longer consumed with vengeance like he was in AC2, there is still that element of him wanting to avenge Mario. While Connor leaves to join the Assassins to protect his village in AC3, he's still driven by revenge to kill Charles Lee, believing he burned down his village and killed his mother. Arno joins the Brotherhood for redemption, but still seeks to avenge Francois de la Serre and help Elise get her revenge. The point is, Assassin's Creed relies on revenge as personal motivations for a lot of these characters. Even Naue, now from Assassin's Creed Shadows, her entire story seems to be about revenge from what we've seen, wanting to avenge her village and father. So I think that begs the question of whether Assassin's Creed's obsession with revenge is good for its storytelling or not. Personally, I do love a good revenge story. I don't think there's something inherently bad with it, and it worked really well for AC2 and Origins specifically, but I do believe the series has kind of started to rely on it and use it as a crutch too often in its storytelling. I think the reason revenge stories are so common in this series is because it's an easy way to set up a premise with a defined goal. Killing the people who killed someone close to the protagonist, be it a parent, child, whatever, and setting the protagonist up with a clear goal and reason to go on a killing spree and have it be justified. I believe it's also an easy way to get the audience to sympathize with the protagonist, feel bad for them and like them, and align the player's motivations with the character. Because the revenge story really only works if the audience is invested in it. You want the player to feel that desire for vengeance that the protagonist does. Again, this worked really well in AC2. That initial assassination on Uberto felt so powerful and satisfying, same with Bayek's kill on Medunamun in Origins. If I wanted to use an outside example, I'd say the first John Wick did this incredibly well too. You wanted him to kill everybody in that movie in his quest for revenge. So I understand why the series so often tells revenge stories, but I think it comes to a certain point where it may be too much. Like I said, I like a good revenge story, but I think Assassin's Creed has sort of overdone it by this point, to where it's become a crutch so the writers can justify a character becoming a killer and still having them be likable and relatable with strong motivations. The protagonist losing a close family member at the beginning of the games has become a cliche for the series now. That happens in AC2, Brotherhood, 3, Unity, Origins, Valhalla, and now to be joined by Shadows soon. I get why it was done in a lot of these games, and it works really well for some of them, mostly 2 in Origins, but now that we've had that done so much, I'd like to see different kinds of Assassin's Creed stories that aren't the formulaic revenge arc. As demonstrated by Altair, a character doesn't need to have some tragic past or be driven by revenge to be an assassin. Altair was just born into the Brotherhood and raised to be an assassin, while his story being one of personal growth, maturity, and redemption. There were still times where he felt the desire for revenge, as again, it's just human instinct, but it was never a primary focus of his character. Edward was a very different type of protagonist. He was motivated by greed initially. They weren't even necessarily trying to make you like him or justify his actions at the start. So I think there's other motivations outside of revenge to be explored with some of these characters going forward. Though, like I said, it seems that won't be the case with Naoe, as revenge seems to be a large part of her character and motivation, as there are even lines like this in the trailers.
Vengeance is a lonely path, Naoe.
I hope at least it's a different take on a revenge story from what we've seen in the series before, and hopefully it's not too cliche or generic, but that's really only something we can know for sure once we play it. Like I said, I generally like revenge stories, but I think after seeing so many of them, especially in this series alone, the concept has begun to get a bit stale for me, unless there's some new unique take or twist on it. Let me know what you guys think about Assassin's Creed's obsession with revenge plots though. Do you wish for the series to start going for different types of stories? And do you have a favorite revenge story arc in Assassin's Creed? I'd say AC2 is probably the easy answer, but I think Origins did it very well, and it felt a bit different that time, playing as a father who loses his son. It made it a different kind of rage and deep sorrow for Bayek in comparison to Ezio. So even though it had been done before, it did feel rather fresh in Origins. But anyways, that's my thoughts on it. As always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. And other than that, thank you for watching, and have a great day, Assassins.